What if I told you that we are being lied to concerning the full capacity of most lithium iron phosphate batteries in the market? Stick around and you're going to find out exactly what I mean. If you have not watched the previous video before this one concerning my inverter and other things I talked about, you may want to check that video out. I'm going to leave the link in the description, and also I'm going to leave it in the end screen. So there are a lot of things I said in that one that somehow you need to watch it to be able to connect with this one more properly. I encourage you to go back to that one and watch that one and come and watch this one. This 5 kilowatt hour lithium battery, it means that we have 5 kilowatts that we can use in 1 hour. So that's, I'm trying to explain it, but I will still do a video to explain in details. So just to give us a heads up. So if I can pull 5 kilowatts from this battery in 1 hour, that means if I have 5 gadgets that are 1000 watts, if I put the 5 gadgets in 1 hour, all of them will drain the battery from fully charged to 0. I hope that is clear. If it's possible to have 2.5 of them, now that means if I put them on this battery, it will drain the battery in 2 hours. So if I go further down, maybe like cut that half into half again, that's 2.5 divided by 2, that's 1.25. If I use it on this system, that means I'm going to use it for 4 hours. If I use 1 kilowatt, it's going to spend 5 hours on this system. I'm trying to make it easy for us. So in a similar way, if we sum the watt of our gadgets at home, if you are using maybe 10 bulbs, 1 TV of 100 watts, a deep freezer of 200 watts, if you sum them up, that gives you an idea of how many watts. Let's put it in summary. 500 watts will take 10 hours to run this battery down. 1000 watts will take 5 hours. 2500 watts will take 2 hours to run the battery down. I hope that is clear on a basic level. That's how you know how long this battery is going to last. But having said this, how many kilowatts are really in this battery? So if you go to the manufacturer's manual, they're going to tell you exactly how many kilowatts you can get from it. So this battery you are seeing that is called 5 kilowatt hour, not so quick. You cannot get 5 kilowatt from this system. As a matter of fact, a colleague of mine has drained this battery to like fully to 0. So he was able to get 4300 watt hour from the battery. I'm going to be doing my capacity test, but somehow I'm not equipped to do it right now. So when I'm ready, I'm still going to do my own just to show you guys exactly what I get from it. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So this is the point I'm trying to bring now. The fact that this battery is called 5 kilowatt, it doesn't mean that you can get that 5 kilowatt hour if it is fully charged. What you can get is 4300 watt hour, and it's not a good idea to be running your battery down. For me, I would not recommend you hope to get more than 4000 watt hour from this battery. So if I'm going to rate this battery, the real rating of this battery is actually 4 kilowatt hour. I hope that is clear. Now going further, a lot of people are used to having these 200 amp hour batteries, and I have done a capacity test on a 200 amp hour battery, and I was surprised. The power I could pull from it was just over 1100 watts. If we're working with that figure, that means we have almost 4 200 amp hour battery. So I'm just going to repeat it in a different way now. What I'm saying in effect is this: the usual battery that we know, which is on the screen right now, theoretically it packs about 2400 watts, but in reality you can only get 50% of it, so that puts it at 1200. So in my capacity test that I did, I was only able to get about 1100 some watts from it, which is 1.1 kilowatt. That's what I was able to get from the battery. If you sum 1.1, if you multiply by 4, that will give you 4.4 kilowatt. I remember I mentioned earlier that this 5 kilowatt hour, when it was drained from full to low, we were able to get 4.3 kilowatt. That means the amount of 200 amp hour battery that I can get from this 5 kilowatt is approximately 4 batteries. I hope that is clear. When you are buying this battery, you have to know that you are getting almost 4 of the usual batteries that we know of, which is the 200 amp hour battery for lead acid, gel, or AGM, whichever. That is what you are getting from this battery. A lot of people are confused about it. Now, how do you know how to get it? The depth of discharge of these batteries, once you understand how it works, it's going to help you to know exactly how many batteries are in which battery. That's how you know. It's not just knowing the watt hour, the amp hour. No, you need to know the depth of discharge for each battery, and with that we now calculate how many batteries are in which, or which one has bigger capacity than the other one. I'm going to do a video on that. Most of these lithium iron phosphate batteries, they come with bars on the batteries. So what that tells us is that if they have 4 bars, for instance, each of the bars will represent 25% margin. For instance, if it has 4 bars now, it means it is 100% full, and by the time the first bar leaves, that means we have 75%. If the next one also leaves again, now remaining 2 bars, that means we have 50%. Now by the time the second to the last one disappears and you now have only the last bar, that tells us that we only have 25% left. So what is happening is that we're heading towards the critical stage of the battery. So that's one good way of observing your battery. Most of the time, if you allow your battery to be going to that 1 bar, 0 bar or something, it is not a good idea. So you want to stay as high as you can. That way you add this extra life to your battery. I don't know if you guys know about that, but if you didn't know before, just try to keep your battery as high as possible. That's another video I'll be doing in future, because a lot of people that live in places where they don't have good grid power, they leave their batteries on the low end. That means their battery charges to about 70%, and of course they can only discharge it to 50%. So they are using their batteries from 70 to 50%. Nothing kills your battery faster than that. What you want to do is to try and keep your battery at 100% and you drain it to about 70%, somewhere around that range. So it's something that I'm going to talk about in another video down the line. Now, talking about the cost of this inverter, the first thing we need to know is that this inverter, the way they are built, they come in 5 kilowatt units margin. Most of them, they have a 7.5 kVA, they also have 12.5. I don't know if they still do, but my focus is usually the 5 kVA because they are less confusing if there's anything to go by. It's very easy. The number is straightforward: 5 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt, 15 kilowatt, and of course they have 25 kilowatt. If you are buying 5 kilowatt, the prices they change from here there, but generally the range, let's assume the 5 kilowatt costs something like 100. You can put the dollar to it. I live in Nigeria, Naira would be favorable for me, so let's put it that way. When you are buying the 5 kilowatt, you are going to be paying 100, and when you are buying the 10 kilowatt, you are going to be paying 180 just about to get it. Now when you are paying for the 15 kilowatt, you are going to be paying somewhere around 250. So what that means is that if you are buying a 10 kilowatt, you are saving up 20 as against buying the 5 kilowatt. What that also means is that if you are buying the 15 kilowatt as against the 5 kilowatt, you are saving up more than 50. So it's important to understand this, because if you can, the bigger the battery you buy, the more you are going to be saving. I think it goes for most products, but the lead acid that we used to buy, not until you buy maybe a very good quantity of the lead acid batteries, they're not really going to give you good discount. So I just said I should chip that in. One other thing to note is that the bigger your batteries are, the more they can hold load. For instance, if I put a 2000 watts on my 5 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery, at the end of the day, it's going to kind of shake it a bit in terms of the composition inside of it, because I'm putting heavy load on a seemingly small battery. But if I put that same 2000 watts on a 10 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery, it's not going to be able to shake it because the power is not very strong compared to the size of the inverter. Now, when you now put that 2 kilowatt, that's 2000 watts on your 15 kilowatt hour, it's going to look like peanuts to it. So if you know you are going to be using heavy load and everything on your inverter, it's something to consider, because you want to put small load comparatively to your battery size. Very important. So that's something to note. In general, overloading your battery, regardless of the kind of battery you are using, is going to affect your batteries in a way that your cycle life will be affected. So you want to try to reduce the load you are putting wherever it's possible. Once in a while, we're going to put this heavy load on our batteries. If you are putting heavy load, make sure the battery is closer to full and everything before you start putting heavy load. But all in all, I've watched heavy load kill people's battery, not lithium iron phosphate too, but what affects other batteries, at some point it starts affecting your lithium iron phosphate battery. So you don't want to also overload your batteries. So find out the maximum load you can put on each manual. They have the recommended load that you need to put on that you can put on your battery. So you want to check that out, because we want our batteries to last as long can be. One other interesting thing is that we can stack these batteries up. So it's something to note. We can stack them in 5 units. That means we can connect them as one. So if I have 5 units of this 5 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery, I can join 5 of them to make one battery. So that means I'll end up having 25 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery. So I can do the same with 10, and at the end of the day I'll get a maximum of 50 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery. And I can do the same with the 15, so that way I will get 75 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery. And there's a 25 kilowatt that they have, so if you stack them up 5 units, you're also going to get 125 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery. So we can do the same for the inverter, but it's something I'll talk about in another video, because I will not want to join the two inverters as one. If I have two of the inverters, for instance, I have this 3.5 kVA now. If I have another 3.5 kVA, I'm not going to pair them to get 7.5 kVA. I'm going to use them separately. So I'll just summarize why I'll use it that way. One thing I want to do when I'm living off grid is that I want to have the ability to cut off some devices when my power level is critical. So one inverter will be carrying my very vital load, let's put it that way, and the other one will be carrying not so vital. So if I shut one down for maybe even 24 hours, nothing will be affected. But the other one, I can just be using what I need to use while I'm waiting to get enough power to put the other inverter on. So I hope that is clear. This 5 kilowatt, like I explained, I don't know, maybe earlier or in the previous video, I'm transitioning. So if you've also watched my previous videos, you see my batteries that I use 2 volts 1000 amp hour batteries. That's what I use presently. So I'm just transitioning to this lithium iron phosphate battery. Personally, I know that getting a 15 kilowatt or 25 is what I want to do, but for now I'm just going to use this one to learn and get my experience and everything, because finally this particular system I'm going to be using it in another location. So later down the line, maybe next year, I don't know when, I'm going to get what I want to call a giant system, because I'm kind of addicted to getting more power, because I have no other way of getting power other than getting it from solar. Anything worth doing is worth doing well. I run a business off of my solar system, as you would have known before, so the more the power that I have, the better it is for business. So see you guys and catch you on the next one. Don't forget, the next one is going to be a charge controller video.